Well, howdy, Facebook fans. I hope everybody's doing well on a Friday night, May 1st. It is nice to get through that month of April that we just got through and on to May. We are so excited to be with you tonight. I'm Chris Boleman, Chief Mission Officer at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. With me tonight is
Randy Boleman,
Randy.
Chair of Communications and Special Services.
Well played, well played. So good to have you here, and hopefully everybody is with a loved one, and because that's what we kind of promoted. This is going to be a little different than what we've done on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. because this is our first quote after hours evening session for our ag chat, and so hopefully you're with someone and hanging out and having a good time. We have some wine here, right here. Randy has us some wine. It's called Bootstrap. So hopefully you're having a good time. As we get started, hey, we want to tell you, start you a watch party, invite your friends, tell them to come on board so they can join us. We've got a good show lined up for tonight. Tell us in the messaging what type of wine you have. We told you to bring your wine to the session. So type in there what kind of wine you have, what type of variety. Go ahead and like and love and tell us how excited you are to be with us tonight. And as always, tell us where you're from. We like to know where you're from. We'll call you out and chat with you a little bit as we go through our session. We are very fortunate tonight to have Carl Chargois join us. Hi, Carl. How are you, sir?
Doing great, man. How are you?
You are you're looking good there. You're right there with some barrels of wine, so I know you're ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, Carl is our superintendent of the Rodeo Uncorked International Wine Competition. And he does a lot of work with us with the rodeo competition there at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. So, Carl, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, what I do is and basically make sure that the competition runs as smoothly as possible. And with all the entries that we have and the number of judges that we have to judge all of the entries, it's quite an undertaking. I've been doing wine in the Houston market in other states for over 20 years, and from the wholesale side, from the winery side, and then part of the competition now for about 9 years now, either as a judge or as head judge or as superintendent. So a lot of fun, a lot of interworking of parts and people and volunteers, but all the good stuff.
Awesome. We already have people posting. They've got a Pinot on them. They've got champagne, a Malbec from Argentina. So we've got a good crowd already online. So tell us a little bit about the incredible competition that is the Rodeo Uncorked International Wine Competition. It's a very competitive competition, isn't it?
It is. And this year we had a record number of entries, actually. This year's entries were, if I remember correctly, 3,528 entries in for this past year. 489 were from Texas, 232 were from our featured region, Mendoza, Argentina. And then we had wines from 19 different countries representing the international competition that it is, including sake from Japan. And so it's always a good thing to have the competition be so well attended by the entries. It's a good thing.
That is awesome. And so the wine competition, just briefly tell us a little bit about once the wine competition is over and they're scored, what does that look like from a medaling point of view, and then also how that leads into the other activities we have throughout the show?
Very good, yeah. So a lot of people don't know the inner workings of the competition. The wines are tasted what's called double blind. The judges only know that the wines are coming to them and they're of a particular category, let's say Chardonnay, and a price point, and they may be unoaked. So there may be 60 different entries of that type of wine, and they're entered in the competition that they're tasting double blind. And as these get judged for character, structure, flavor, profile, based on what a Chardonnay typicity, quote unquote, it should be. And this is a key point to where judges aren't told to judge the wine if they like it. It's judged because they have different preferences. So judges said, is this wine made well? Does it represent the category that it's in well? And so those wines get judged, either a gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal, or no medal. And if all 5 judges on that panel give it a gold medal, it's a double gold, which means it's unanimous that this is a really good example of what's representative for that class. And so from there, all the gold medals and double golds, they get to enjoy some of the other events that comes out of the competition, like Roundup and Best Bites, or the Champion Wine Auction and Dinner, the Champion Wine Garden, which is always very popular during the rodeo. And of course, there's some opportunities to buy some of the wines, the double barrel sampler cases that's involved in there. So a lot of good stuff.
Cool. So in saying that, and talking about competition, we actually have some of the competitors with us tonight. Do you mind real quick as we get started here, going around and introducing our folks?
Not a problem at all. In fact, tonight is what's called a top award show. So our top 11 awards that we give out, and they get saddles for these top awards. And I'll introduce them down, starting at the champion, our grand champion, Champagne Piper Heidsieck, represented by Mr. Kyle Kaplan. Hey, Kyle.
Hi, how's it going?
Doing well, man, doing well. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. And in the top red position for our competition, Revelry D11 Dionysus Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon 2015. You there, Jared?
Yeah, I'm here. Cheers.
Cheers to you, man. Cheers to you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Also, joining us from the top white wine from the competition is Chateau Saint Michel Dry Riesling 2018 from Columbia Valley in Washington State. These are two back-to-back Washington State wines here, guys. Mr. David Rosenthal, head winemaker over there. Hey, David.
How's it going?
Look at him.
Cowboy hat on and everything.
Cowboy, look at the buckle, guys. He's got the buckle sporting it. That from the 12?
Houston rodeo buckle right here from 2012 winter.
Awesome. Look at that. He's outfitted well. And representing our top Texas winery, Becker Family Vineyards, Dr. Richard Becker on the line with us tonight. And you there, Doctor? We're going to get his microphone turned on, I guess. There you go.
Yeah, well, we're glad to be here. It's been a treat for us. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Dr. Becker, he has a few wines in the competition. I think he entered like 15 wines or so. And he was actually our top Texas winery, scoring lots of good gold medals and everything for the wine city. So that's what makes that happen. So Dr. Boleman, that's our guest lineup.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Carl, I just want you to know, we already have people on that are asking, is that your cave? Is that your personal cave behind you? I want you to know that. But lots of Malbecs tonight. Of course, lots of cabs. We know the type of audience that's with us. We know our rodeo folks certainly love that. So yeah, some good stuff going on. Lots of Houston Livestock Show and rodeo volunteers. Quick shout out to our 35,000 volunteers who make all this happen for us, right? And so when we know, even within the wine competition, or the wine program, I should say, we have a garden committee, a competition committee, wine relations, sales and events. So lots of folks that help make that happen. Okay, Carl, we're going to transition, and here's what I want you to do. Provide just a brief education for those folks that are holding a glass of wine,
Okay.
a little bit about what we should be looking for.
Well, make sure your glass has wine in it. That's number one. And then number two.
Check.
Got it. All right, we're
Check.
good.
Okay. So, one of the things that I tell people, this is about personal preference. And of course, we're talking to a number of people with different wines in their glass, Pinot Noir, Malbec, some Champagne. This is personal preference. And so what you're looking for is wine that is pleasurable to you. If you find something that you like and it's just hitting all the buttons well, then that's what, I think you should be grading this on. So points of things that you should be looking for is freshness. It doesn't have some good acidity to it that invites you for another glass of wine, another taste. So that's a good check mark. The aromas on the wine, is it inviting you in, or is it just enticing enough to say, what is that? I'm willing to try it, even though it may smell more cheesy or something that's not quite floral or quite fruity. It's just inviting you in for some of that, what I call cheese funk. And so, once you have, what's that?
The cheese funk doesn't sound good.
No, but hey, there's some funky cheese that's actually quite good.
Okay, good point.
All right. So, if it invites you in and it takes your glass, and then if it finishes well and you say, I can do another one of those, and whether another one of those is another glass or another bottle, that makes it even better or worse. So there you go.
Excellent. Well, that's a good intro. So what I'm going to do now, if it's okay, I'm going to punt to you. And some folks asked if that would be easy for me to do, and it is. I can easily turn this over to you, Carl, because I know you're an expert and you have such great relations with our folks on tonight. So with that being said, it's to you. Talk to them a little bit about their product, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks very much. And first, we're going to start with the Grand Champion. How about that? The champagne is always a good start to celebrate life and what we have going for us. Kyle, you're a certified sommelier, business development manager over at Piper Heidsieck. Tell us a little bit about Piper Heidsieck and what challenges you're facing right now and some good things that's happening.
Sure. So, Piper Heidsieck, we've been around for a good moment since 1785. As far as challenges go, I think that definitely some of those higher end champagnes aren't being consumed quite as much, but the Grand Champion, this one is doing just fine at the moment. So the Piper Heidsieck non-vintage brut, kind of our go-to, the red label. Generous amount of Pinot Noir inside this one, about 60%, about 25% Pinot Meunier. The balance being Chardonnay. Definitely a lot of flavors of like apples and pears, very fresh and very lively.
One of the things I try to tell people all the time is that champagne, most people think you only should be popping it during celebrations. Well, I celebrate every day. So shouldn't everyone celebrate every day?
100%. A lot of people don't realize that champagne is probably one of the best food pairing wines that there is, due to the really high acidity, those beautiful bubbles. I like to have champagne through my entire meal. And I do a lot of champagne events where people, I get to open up their eyes to how good, champagne can be, with everything from, fried chicken to oysters to caviar to, even steak is phenomenal.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Some Piper Heidsieck Rosé with a nice steak would be perfect.
100%.
Yeah. So Piper Heidsieck, as the Grand Champion, have you noticed any change or anything for the brand around the state? Do people recognize it more, or are they looking at and saying, "Hey, I don't know this, but I do know this," or kind of sort of?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot more eyes on the brand since we won, which is everything that we could possibly want. I think a lot of people who hadn't tried it in the past are now saying, we're going to give it a shot. And I think everybody's very happy because the quality is far better than I think a lot of than the price. We kind of outdo ourselves compared to the price, which is
one of the things
to be.
Yeah, and one of the things I also tell people about Piper Heidsieck is that this is the only champagne that was on the top 100 list from the Wine Spectator for last year, if I remember correctly. Am I right?
You're 100% correct. 100%.
So that's got to say something.
Yes, we've definitely scored very well in that publication for many years. So
great. Cheers to you on that, Chris. We got anybody want to talk to us about champagne on the line?
Yeah, just honestly, most of the comments are just how much people really love this champagne. Lots of positive comments coming in, lots of congratulatory notes as well. So good stuff here, and just a comment about pairing with steaks. They didn't know that was something they could do. So that's awesome.
100%, yeah. Especially like a rosé, as Carl was saying, the Piper Heidsieck Rosé Sauvage. It has a huge amount of red Pinot Noir in there, and you have that with a filet mignon. It's going to change your world, I promise.
Excellent. Let's go. Let's go to our top red. Now, Texas is known as red wine country or Cabernet country, and so the next wine certainly fits that. It's the top red wine, Revelry D11 Dionysus Vineyard, 2015 from Columbia Valley, Washington. And Jared is on the line with us. Jared, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a little of the D11 right here and in my glass. So
Excellent.
Having a good time. Starting happy hour a little early here. We're 2 hours, of course, behind you all. So this is a great excuse to get things rolling.
Don't act like you haven't done it before.
I was going to do it anyway, but it just makes me feel better.
Yeah, you have an excuse to do it, right? I love it.
Exactly.
That's right.
So Washington State, one of the things that most people don't, it's kind of an afterthought after, California, Oregon, Texas, and, it's kind of an afterthought for a lot of consumers. They don't think about Washington State as one of the greatest, one great wine producing areas and producing phenomenal wines of richness and depth, all up and down Columbia Valley. Tell us a little bit about what Washington State is doing to help us understand that what we're missing out on.
Yeah, absolutely. So Texas has been a great market for us to sell wine for many years. And, of course, events like the Houston Rodeo and Livestock Show are amazing outlets to get a bunch of, people that are interested in wine and agriculture together. And, that's, of course, why we sent wines to the competition. Very fortunate to have done very well there, and then do things like this. So, Washington's the second largest growing region in the United States, far ahead of Oregon in size, but far behind California in size, and also sort of starting point on a large scale commercial basis in terms of, kind of time in the market. But in that time, our commercial, let's say ultra premium wine producing story started in the late 70s and early 80s. And so, we got off the starting block a little later than California here domestically. But in that time, we've racked up many 100-point scores for Cabernets and more 90-point plus scores on a kind of a classical scale than any other region in the world. And we've done that with really lower than average prices when compared to these other regions. So, case in point here, we've got, our Cabernet having been recognized as top red wine at the rodeo, and then Chateau Saint Michel and David, who you'll throw to a little later, as top white wine. So
yeah,
the quality is there, the versatility of the region's there, and through conversations like this and rolling up our sleeves and getting our wines in restaurants and retailers across the country, that's how we build and tell the story. But Texas has noticed for a long time. So
good.
We're happy to be a part of things like this.
I tell people all the time, that people should really be challenging themselves to taste wines from different areas. And if you travel all throughout Yakima or Columbia Valley or anywhere around there, I mean, you're tasting different things out of Washington State that people could really grab hold to. And, Washington became known for a good Merlot growing area. But there's a latest article in the Wine Enthusiast magazine regarding Cabernet from Washington State, how the richness and the intensity of Cabernet flavors in that cooler region is actually coming online. So I hope people reach out for it. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. Chris is, I'm going to talk about prices here. Kyle didn't mention this, but Piper Heidsieck retails for around $45, $50 or somewhere there, or a little bit less. And so that's a very affordable champagne. Jared, D11 is a single vineyard from Revelry, but there are other Cabernets also from Revelry that are very affordable and very approachable for weekly consumption, I'm sure. Tell us a little bit, Jared, about the Cabernet that's right below D11.
Can I interrupt just real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just wanted to just check in on our messages. Lots of awesome comments about wines from Washington. Y'all give us a like and or a heart if you had some of that wine from Washington. I can tell you, Randy and I were out there a few years ago. We had a great trip out there and loved it very much. So just wanted to highlight some of the comments from Mary Johnson and Ashley Dixon Smith that are talking about just how much they like the wine out that part of the world. And everybody else, y'all continue to comment with some of your thoughts. So Carl, back to you.
All right. So Jared, I know D11 is a little bit on the luxury scale for price, but I'm sure you make other Cabernets.
Yeah. So the D11 retails for about $80 a bottle. We only make about 400 cases of it. So it's some of the more fought over fruit in our state, and it's absolutely incredible. And it's part of, as you mentioned, our single vineyard series, our aerials series. And in fact, the whole series, I'll give you a little zoom in, has the single vineyard block from which the fruit comes on the label. So we kind of show you in full transparency where this fruit is grown. But our number one selling wine is also a Cabernet. And in our total portfolio, we make sort of equal parts Bordeaux varieties like Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, and then Rhone varieties. So we do a lot of Syrah, Grenache, and so forth. But our number one selling wine across all of our wines is our Columbia Valley Cabernet. And you can find that readily certainly in Houston and across Texas. And that you can find for about $17 typically at retail. And it's in central markets and Specs and Kroger
So under 20. So great way to get introduced to Revelry Vineyards. Excellent.
Yeah, and Carl, just a couple.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was one of the questions. It's in the Houston area. Was there places to find it? So thanks for addressing that. And I have to tell you that Randy is no longer sitting next to me because she went and grabbed her own laptop so she could start shopping. So I'm not sure this is going all that well for me. I did want to point that out as you guys are talking. She's searching your website. So
excellent.
Y'all keep telling us what you're drinking out there, folks. It's so far lots of comments, lots of folks having a nice happy hour, Carl. They're enjoying the session.
Excellent. So I'm curious to find out, and I'm going to backtrack here to Kyle real fast. Kyle, you guys wanted a saddle for your Grand Champion Awards. Where's the saddle now?
So the saddle actually got sent back to France. It's inside of our champagne caves, inside of like our trophy room. It's in the middle of the trophy room. I mean, it's front and center, in fact.
Excellent. And Jared?
Love it.
Yeah, ours is sitting in our tasting room, patiently waiting for for folks to be able to come back in and enjoy our hospitality and check it out. So we haven't gotten to show it off much yet, but it was either that or throw it on a horse, but it's too pretty. So we'll leave it on the rack.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys. So I'm going to move on to our top white wine. It's also from Washington State. It's Chateau Saint Michel Dry Riesling 2018. And again, we have David Rosenthal, head winemaker for all of the Chateau Saint Michel projects. Is that right, David?
Yeah, I head white winemaker, so I manage all of our whites. Yep.
Oh man, that's a big undertaking. I mean, you guys make about, how many SKUs do you make actually? How many different wines?
Oh boy, probably in a given year, maybe up to 40 different whites.
Well, thanks for taking the time to join us here, because I'm sure you're busy.
Yeah.
Busy trying to keep everything going. Well, tell us a little bit. So you are a past winner, according to your belt buckle,
Yes.
of a couple of things. The dry Riesling, was that kind of a shocker for you to find out that won the category?
You know, to be perfectly honest, no. And for people that haven't really seen this wine before, there's the label.
There you go.
You know what? This wine seems to win more awards than a lot of other wines, which is awesome, because it's actually one of our most inexpensive wines. You know, retail anywhere from, you know, $8
about
to $10.
$10.
Yeah, depending on where you're at. And to me, dry Riesling is this perfect combination of fresh and fruity and floral, and it's very food friendly, but it's dry. So you don't have to talk about the sweetness that you usually sort of clouds the conversation when you're talking about Riesling.
Yeah, I was telling someone the other day, I said, you know, if you want a pool pounder, porch pounder, whatever you want to call it, this is the wine for you, because it's crisp, it's clean, it's great for Texas or all over Texas when you get, especially in the summertime, hot, humid, dry conditions. This is a perfect quencher to keep things going. And also, it's a great food wine. The acidity on this thing is beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Riesling, you know, throw that down with anything spicy. So you're talking barbecue, you're talking, you know, Asian cuisine, and then it can go all the way to fresh seafood, oysters, all of that stuff. So it's the most versatile food wine, probably along with champagne. I'll agree to that. But it's a beautiful wine. It's, you know, it's what Chateau Saint Michel is most well known for is our Riesling. We're the largest premium Riesling producer in the world, and we take great pride in it. So it's been an honor.
Excellent. And you know, as head winemaker, I'm sure there's some people on the line or on the viewing this that want to know a little bit about the connection with Dr. Lawson in Germany and a little bit about that. So there's some good heritage and pedigree here.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been working with Ernie Lawson out of Germany for 20 years now on a project called Eroica. And it's a Washington State Riesling, but made in more of a German style. And it's really elevated Riesling, especially American Riesling, to a whole other place than where it was 20 years ago. And the message on Riesling is it's not just a sweet wine. It is a little bit of a complicated subject, and there's you know, it does take a little bit more consumer education, but Riesling to me, it's just so versatile and so consumer friendly. I really, you know, encourage everyone to drink more Riesling. Go out and try Riesling if you haven't. And if you're nervous about the sweetness, just make sure it says dry on the label, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, this is another conversation I had with somebody, you know, regarding Riesling on the world stage. There's no way to determine how sweet it is really from the labeling. I mean, because it's not like a scale like the Alsatians do. You know, the Rieslings that you can see on there from Germany may have a Spätlese or an Auslese label on there, but that really doesn't tell you a whole lot either. So winemaking wise, you know, Riesling can span the globe from dry, crisp, and clean all the way to pancake syrup.
Yeah.
And everything in between.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit difficult, but for a $10 entry for an education on Chateau Saint Michel, I think it's a bargain. It's a good education.
The one thing I will say, and hopefully you can see this on there, but on the back of all of our Rieslings and a lot of the other Riesling producers throughout the world are starting to use this. It's called the IRF scale. Mm-hmm. And there's actually a sweetness scale on the back label that shows you exactly how sweet the winemaker feels the wine is. So seeing this more and more on Rieslings, and you know, it's a great little tool to help the consumer, if you're walking through the grocery store, figure out exactly what you're taking off the shelf.
Hey, Carl, if I could, so tell me, as from the competition point of view, for a $10 dry Riesling to get that type of award, that's a big deal, right? I mean, it's up against a lot of different competition.
That is huge. So all of these wines are competing with several other wines to get to through 3 different layers of competition to get to this level. And no matter the price point, I mean, the price point for this one is actually quite dramatic because it is on the lower end of the price point. Something like this, I would expect to be almost double the price, honestly, to get to this level. But yeah, these wines are competing against multiple, and I mean, could be 50 or 60 other wines in the same class. And to get to this level, to get to the top level of their class, is remarkably thin.
Got it. Yeah, just a couple of the other comments. People, there's a lot of comments, Carl, that folks want to see pictures of the saddles, right? So at some point afterwards, we're going to have to get some pictures. We also have somebody that when we get to travel back to Europe, they want to know where they can go see the rodeo saddle that's in France. So I don't know if we know exactly where that's located, but yes, that's on here as well.
It's in the capital city of Champagne.
It's in Champagne. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, in Reims, the capital city of Champagne.
Cool.
But you have to spell Reims. It's R-E-I-M-S. It's just pronounced crazy.
All right. We'll put that in the messaging too. You guys keep messaging us and keep asking questions and making comments, because we're getting some really good feedback just about the format and how all this is going. So, Carl,
Excellent.
You're doing well, man. You're doing real well. Let's keep going.
I guess it's my first rodeo.
Well said. Well played.
So, David, thanks, man, and congratulations. So, question for you, and the saddle is where?
Saddle is also kind of waiting for our customers to come back. It's kind of on our tour route. We do tours every hour through our big winery, and yeah, it's there waiting. I took some pictures for it with the dry Riesling bottle on it. They may flash on the screen here, but yeah, it's a beautiful saddle.
Excellent. And yeah, I think producers were saying they had some pictures of Chardonnay and things like that from the winery. Hopefully they showed those up there while you're talking, so they can get an idea of the diversity you have in Washington State from both you and Jared's perspective. Lots of diversity, lots of different grape varietals. Truly, if you have an interest in wine, you really should investigate and educate yourself in Washington State. Doesn't cost a lot, costs less than a wine class at some university. Just buy a bottle of wine.
That's awesome. Hey, Carl, let's drill down and talk some Texas wines. How about that?
Sounds good. So our top Texas winery is from Becker Family Vineyards. We have with us Dr. Richard Becker. Dr. Becker.
Good evening.
Glad you joined us. I want to help people understand something. So Dr. Becker and Becker Vineyards entered about 15 wines in the competition. Let me count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gold medals out of those, 6 or 7 gold medals out of these things. And the Dolcetto, I'm not sure how many vintages of Dolcetto this is, 17 vintage, was a double gold class champion, Texas and Texas class champion. How many of these have you made? How many vintages of the Dolcetto have you made?
Carl, this is about the third year that we made it, and it's fruit from Wilmot in Tokyo, Texas.
Tokyo.
And Tokyo is between Plains and Brownfield, somewhere out that way. And Jeff's been growing grapes for 15 years, a wonderful grape grower. And he sent us the Dolcetto the first time 3 or 4 years ago, and we had a lot of fun making wine out of it. So it was a treat. I wanted to say we've been doing virtual tasting from our winery, and I like to point out that it's only a few minutes after 7 right now in New York, when people come out on their balconies and their fire escapes and open their windows and try to celebrate their moment of safety and release from this terrible pandemic that's affecting the world and our country. And so we've been using our virtual tasting as a way to celebrate an escape from there. And I think what you're doing tonight is very much in that line. And but I just want to mention our thoughts to all the people that are protecting us in this fight against this terrible infection.
Absolutely. And as a doctor and a scientist, you understand this virus probably better than most people do, and understand how these things work. And I appreciate those words. You're hopefully they may be enjoying a bottle of wine from Becker Vineyards.
That's our plan.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, so you've been in Texas now growing for how many years?
25 years.
25 years growing. You've seen a lot of change in the Texas wine industry, and just number of wineries, number of outlets, and things like that. Help us understand a little bit about what Texas wine is faced with when it comes to connecting with consumers.
Well, it's there's been tremendous growth. We were the 29th bonded winery when we started in 1993, and now there are 500 bonded wineries in Texas. That'll tell you a little bit about the growth. There were 3 wineries around us. Now there are 50. We're between Fredericksburg and Stonewall in the Texas Hill Country. I think the quality in Texas wine is just enormously improved. I think it's wonderful that we're able to compete to win gold and double gold medals against all the great wines that are on your panel tonight. I love all of them. But it's just been progress with great growing winemaking. This is a difficult thing to do. It's a learning curve, not unlike medicine. It's both art and science, and it requires time and experience and patience. And those are hard to find sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. And I was telling someone the other day, that the Texas wine industry Texas wineries have about 100 days in their vineyard, 100 days from bud break to harvest. And the first part of that is frost and hail. The last part is drought, and everything in between is prayer.
That's right. Well, for example, in Tokyo, it snowed 2 weeks ago. It'll be 100 tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that'll tell you a lot about what's happening in that part of the world.
Wow.
We have late freeze, early freeze, hail, all kinds of varmints. It's a struggle, but it's one worth doing. You have to, once you start doing it, it gets in your blood. You want to make it work.
Gotcha. Well, so Texas wine, one of the, I've been telling people, I want people to start asking for Texas wines. When they go to restaurants, to ask for it. And a lot of times the restaurants are leery to put a Texas wine on because people aren't asking for them. And one of the things I tell them, I say, well, if you're not asking for it, then you get forgotten about. If I go to Virginia or Missouri or, Idaho even, there are wines from those states represented on some of their lists. And, if we don't support our own, who will, kind of thing. So hopefully the people that are watching this will just ask for Texas wine. Even if they don't have one, ask them if they have one to help support our industry.
Yeah, and just to jump in there, Carl, what we're seeing here on the chat is that a lot of people are enjoying Texas wines, and they're specifically liking Dr. Becker's wine. So lots of really positive comments from Ashley Dixon Smith and Rebecca Lucky, and lots of folks really appreciate Dr. Becker, the wine that you all are doing there. And so just wanted to make that make that comment, Carl.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, I agree with your statement about the overall quality has improved dramatically over at least the past 6 to 8 years, whether it be from Pedernales or the guys over at Messina Hoff or the guys over at Llanos Staccato. Overall, Texas wine has improved dramatically over the past years through the shared best practices. So applaud you for that and getting things going. Is there a favorite you have in the of the list in the Becker wines?
These are all my children. It depends on how each one is behaving that day, right? I love the Dolcetto. I love our cabs. I love our Viognier. That's become kind of the white grape of Texas. About 3 years ago, 3 Texas wineries sent Viognier to Lyon to a blind tasting, all French wine judges against the Viogniers from Condrieu. The 3 Texas wines won the 3 top positions in that competition.
Wow.
And I think that says a lot about Texas Viognier, and it's worth a taste.
There you go.
Yeah, that is awesome. Hey, Carl, can I ask a question to the group?
Sure.
I was just curious. We're obviously in a time an unprecedented time, and I was just curious, how has this impacted the wine industry? If someone could take a shot at that.
Who do you want to go first? Kyle, you go first.
I'll jump in. No, nobody. All right, Kyle, you go.
No, I think I was just mentioning earlier that I think that the ultra high end is kind of taken the back seat to the more affordable, but people are still drinking and they're enjoying their bottles at home quite a bit.
And Jared?
What do you guys think?
Yeah, what I was gonna say is, we've seen pretty significant shift in where our sales are coming from, and we've always had a pretty lively what we call direct to consumer business, but online, people calling in. Of course, our tasting rooms in Washington State are closed, as many businesses are across the country, but all of our customers are shifting over and ordering wine online, and and calling us, and we're calling our wine club members and either trying to find a safe place local to them that they can purchase the wine, or boxing it up and shipping it to them. So people are absolutely supporting the wine industry, and we're so fortunate and thankful for that. And I think one thing that is brought on is if a winery didn't have enough focus to their ease of online sales process, et cetera, maybe they didn't have free shipping, maybe they didn't often offer deals. Most of them are now. So if you're looking for, I'm sure, any of these wines, or just more wine for your home and cellar, there's really never been a better time to order wine online, or call your favorite winery. You're probably going to find some pretty amazing deals, and people shipping it right to your door. So I think that probably is something that we all hope will remain throughout this as well, and maybe make somewhat of a shift in just the ease of access to wines. I'm going to jump on and order some Becker wines, and how they can ship to Washington State, because I want to try this Viognier.
Excellent.
That's awesome. Yeah, and so the other question I wanted to ask Carl, if it's okay, is Dr. Becker, you mentioned the art and science of producing wine, and as the chief mission officer, and really what these are about is promoting agriculture and the science of agriculture, which certainly winemaking is. So can one of you just tell us a little bit about how you go about making the product from the grape, and I mean, what are some of the decisions that maybe more of the art side of it, the decisions you make along the way of when it's in a barrel, or how many days, and for the folks watching at home that may not, they know that there's a grape and then they know there's a bottle, but that in between in there, just what does that look like from your perspectives?
My God, when we're trying to make French wine in the German Hill Country with a wonderful Irish winemaker, John Leahy, none of that fits together necessarily. Much of it is about imagination. Much of it is about having the people who grow grapes for us, in addition to the grapes we grow in our estate, who are committed to the risk of getting the fruit fully ripe so we can make the best wine we can make. So it's getting a team commitment to doing whatever it takes to get the best fruit for the best winemaking. Much of the wine comes from the vineyard, as you know. After that, it is expertise, it's taste, it's memory for taste, things that I didn't know about when I began this. And putting it all together, nobody really understands how much of the flavor of wine comes from the barrel until you start doing this. So you start going through the winery, tasting out of barrels every week or two for 2 years to see how the Dolcetto or the Cabernet proceeds. We take the Viognier out after about a year. All of this is experience that probably requires 3 or 4 generations, and we're about 25 years down the road. So that's not as good as I would like. But it's a very complex artistic and scientific combination that is. Once you start doing it, and as you really begin to learn about it, you think maybe I shouldn't have done this. This is too hard. But that's what it is, and we love it. We have a great team. We have 32 full-time employees, and I'm committed to keep them all fully salaried, fully employed until we get through this terrible pandemic.
That's awesome. David, what about you?
No, I think it's like with any artistic endeavor, right? You have to sort of have a vision going into it. If you're taking the right scientific approach and using the information, it's hard to necessarily make a bad wine. So at that point, right, it's a stylistic choice. It's an artistic expression. What am I going to pick the grapes today, or am I going to pick the grapes tomorrow, or am I going to let them hang for another couple days? It's not necessarily that one's going to be drastically better than the other, given a short window. But you're going to get some different interpretations there, right? And then, am I going to ferment it in barrel, or am I going to ferment it in tank? And do I want it to be fresh and fruity? These are all, huge decisions that we make. But making wine, it's really about hundreds and hundreds of tiny decisions every day, trying to take that and craft it using your philosophy, using the tailoring that you want to use to sort of stylize that wine and get it into the bottle. And every vintage is different. It gives you different raw materials that you're working with. And that's why I think most winemakers are always so passionate about it, because it's different every year. It's always changing. It's always evolving. It's never boring. But one thing that I'd like to go back to that Dr. Becker had said is it's very interesting when you start to sort of look at the history of Texas and the history of Washington as wine growing regions. We're not that different. Washington might be 10 or 15 years ahead of where Texas is at now. When I started with St. Michel 20 years ago, there was about 120 wineries in Washington. Now there's a little over 1,000. So, I mean, the parallels are striking. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. Hey, Carl, the other question that came up here as we're kind of starting to wrap up is just if the folks can talk about what or discuss about pairings. We've talked a little bit about it within each wine, but generally just how does that work and what's the thought process?
Well, let me start on this one because pairings, I tend to tell people drink what you like with what you like, kind of thing. It's if you have to practice with this a little bit to find out exactly what tickles your palate. But and that could be if you like white wine with hamburgers and that's your preference, then go with it. Because I don't want to put rules of thumb on here to say this is one thing is good and one thing is bad. So bottom line is, people drink what they like with whatever food they want to. And a lot of people think, I'll take it as an example. Most people think sake is only made for sushi. Well, that's not true. There are other dishes served in Japan that sake goes along with, so they look at sake like they look at beer, and they have it with hot dogs and burgers and everything, barbecue even. So wine is kind of the same way. Now there are some things that will clash with what you're eating, but that's a good education for you. But I think it's a better education if you learn it yourself versus me telling you. So with that said, let's start with bubbles and go to Kyle. Some classic champagne pairings.
So classic pairings are definitely chilled shellfish, things such as oysters or caviar. Those are kind of like the traditional. My personal favorite pairing is fried chicken. And I actually found that out when I was working as a sommelier in Texas. And this wonderful gentleman, I didn't know what to pair with the fried chicken. He goes, "You got to go champagne." Ever since then, it's been just like where my heart is.
Wow.
Fried chicken and champagne. It's a good thing. Love it. Love it. Also, if you pick up a Blanc de Noir, which is a bubble made from Pinot Noir, it actually goes very well with Tex-Mex.
Wow.
That's right.
Believe it or not. How about you, David?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar, right? You have cuisine internationally and wine styles have sort of developed together, right? So the sort of traditional home for Riesling, you talk about German, you talk about Alsace in France. I mean, you're talking about, sausages and asparagus and, spätzle and things like that. So there's all that sort of spicy meat profile. But then, modern stuff, I mean, again, anything with Asian flavors is going to go very, very well with Riesling, particularly lighter bodied seafood dishes as well. But, we're gonna crank out some lemon pasta tonight and have some Riesling with it. So nothing fancy, but it's a very versatile wine.
Sweet. And let's go to Texas. How about that, Richard? Becker?
Well, yeah, I think the Dolcetto with any of the red sauce Italian dishes would be wonderful. I don't think I'm more of an uncorker than a chef.
Understood, but you do like good food and good wine, and I'm sure Jared does too, right, Jared?
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute here. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with so much of what everybody's saying, and I think the food pairings are often overthought with especially people that aren't entirely comfortable with either cooking or wine. I always think about scale, trying to find things that work in like scale or texturally. So wines with more tannins, there's a lot of fruits and vegetables that also have a lot of tannin, and like Cabernet, this Cabernet, I'm gonna go ribeye every time, and Cabernet and steak is kind of the most well-known pairing. But why I go ribeye is it's got all that fat and adds so much creaminess, which offsets the tannin in the wine and the acidity as well. So sometimes it's contrast in qualities of food or wine, but oftentimes you find like scale and in volume, I guess, if that makes sense, of those qualities and traits. So,
and Chris, let me
that's what I look for, but don't overthink it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you there. And Chris, let me kind of round this out. Is that a couple things to note?
You wrap out. Can I just read you some of the comments we're getting on pairings? I have to read some of these.
All right. Yeah.
So Popeye's chicken and champagne is my favorite. Here's another. Lemon pasta sounds delicious. Puffy Cheetos go good with champagne. And we drink reds with pretty much everything. Love pairing with brisket and beef ribs tonight. The best one is champagne from Mike Sarubi. Champagne is great with eggs on Sunday and church on TV. So yes, that sounds like there's lots of different opinions out there. I'll let you wrap up on pairings real quick.
I like Mike Sarubi's comment on that, and I think he's right about that. So a couple things. We said already that Jared talked a little bit about fat, and a couple rules of thumb. First of all, you should know fat is where the flavor's at. That's the number one for food wine pairing. So flavor and fat.
Absolutely.
Fat is where the flavor's at. Number two, regarding the weight of the wine, as Jared's mentioned, try to pair a wine with the level of spicy and flavors and depth in your food. So if it's a salad, which has light flavors, you want to go a light kind of bodied wine. But if it's a salad that has chicken, that has rosemary, garlic, and a whole bunch of other flavors, you may want to go to a deeper or more deeper white wine, perhaps, or even a light-bodied red for your palate. But the bottom line here is try it yourself, experiment, and see what you like and what you don't like. It's not a expensive education to get a bottle of wine that is comparable to what your meal is to try it out. So I say that's your cost of education.
I love it. And with that, we're going to wrap up. Before we wrap up, let's do a big round of applause for our panel. You guys came on with us today, and you have been awesome, man. We're all across the nation, and round of applause in the text chat. Carl and I are clapping here. Thank you so much for coming on board. We will reference your product as we move forward. Carl, excellent job. How about a round of applause for Carl for his first time and co-hosting a good run. And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen that are online with this, tell us give us a heart or a thumbs up if you think we should have a round 2 of this sometime soon, because I think this was really good, and so are the comments. I'm going to invite Randy back over as we wrap up, because hopefully you're with a loved one tonight, and on a Friday night. It's a beautiful night here in Texas, that's for sure. So Randy, thanks for joining us. Hopefully,
where there's wine, I'll be there.
Yes, and yes, I'm aware. So with that being said, just a couple of wrap-up points. First of all, to reiterate what Dr. Becker said, we want to thank all of our first responders, our doctors, our nurses, everyone out there that's on the front lines of what we're facing with COVID-19. I said to some of the staff today in an email, we're putting April in the rearview mirror and concentrating on May being in the windshield, and hopefully better days are ahead. And we know it's been a rough time, but as we think about our future, let's make sure we appreciate our loved ones and spend some time with them, firstly. And secondly, again, let's thank our first responders and everybody that's helping us out. Thirdly, let's continue to practice our social distancing practice, right? We know hand sanitation, 6 feet away, all those kinds of things are helping getting us through that. And so with that being said, thanks everybody for coming on board. Tonight, we will be back on Wednesday at 11 a.m. So hopefully families and kids will join us. We're going to be talking to our friends at NASA right outside Houston. So that should be an excellent session. Cheers to everybody out there. Thanks for being on, everybody. Have a great weekend. God bless, and have a great night. Thank you very much.
Cheers.